Jason Donovan is today's presenter. As I stated, it's the Rowe Arboretum, which you see on your screen. Jason is the director of the Stanley M. Rowe Arboretum. He is an ISA certified arborist, and he is also the municipal forester for the village of Indian Hill. So with that, Jason, you have the control of the screen. The floor is yours.
All righty. Thank you, Byron, and welcome everybody. I hope everybody had a great new year.
Jason, thank you for reminding me.
You're welcome.
Jason had a request that I forgot about. He wanted to have some questions asked of you, the attendees, prior to his presentation. So I'm going to launch what is called a poll. Give me just a second. And you'll have 20 seconds. It will appear on your screen. And you'll have 20 seconds or so to answer the questions. This is multiple choice. You can answer yes to all of them, none of them, one of them, whichever applies. With that, we'll end the poll. And Jason, with that, the floor is yours, sir.
All righty, thank you. So I wanted to get those polling questions because, like I was stating, Rowe Arboretum is located southeast of downtown Cincinnati. If you have never not been here, I believe in southwest Cincinnati, we are the only American Conifer Society reference garden, from my understanding, until you get up toward Columbus or a little bit further north. We are located in Indian Hill, which is a very wealthy community, all residential for the most part. And this particular garden started off as a residence, just general garden. That's what that started off as. They're just their collection. So what I wanted to do today was start off with a little bit of history. We'll cover some history and kind of what the plans are for the Arboretum. The Arboretum has been around since 1926. That is the original time that the Rowe family started to build their home here and start to plant the gardens and such. So let's get started. If you do have any questions, I think we're going to, if it's a pertinent, we'll answer it at the time, but if you can wait toward the end, I believe that'd be best. But we'll continue on here. So recently, about 4 years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago, we wanted to update our master plan and collections policy. And anybody that's not familiar with that, that basically is a plan that the Arboretum puts together on how we take in plants, accession plants, and deaccession or get rid of plants, and then kind of where we wanted to go, where we see the Arboretum going in the next 20 years. And that can be from plantings to capital improvements to anything that would benefit or promote the Arboretum. So the mission right now of the Arboretum is to provide a beautiful display of evergreens and companion plantings in a setting that imparts an education about the plants and the history of the Arboretum. So the Arboretum is, the land is owned by the village of Indian Hill. The city owns that. The Arboretum itself is ran off an endowment fund. We are not a 5013C, but we are able to take tax donations through the village. So a donor can get a tax exemption through the village that route. The Rowe Arboretum completed, like I said, its master plan and collections policy in 2018. The new plan lays out the vision for the 9.7 acre Arboretum, which is what we currently have, which we're going to implement those in over 20 years in phases. The objectives, the primary focus of the Arboretum is our conifer collection. We also have what we call companion plantings or harmonious companion plantings to honor the history of the site and the Rowe family intentions. Now the Rowe family, they started planting typically what everybody plants in their garden, just anything that they liked. But eventually Dorothy Rowe in particular really loved conifers and evergreens. One of her goals was to make this a primarily conifer collection and really try to grow anything that would grow in our zone from around the world. And that's what we try to obtain at this point. The Arboretum, over the years, it has, like I said, it started in 1926. It has gone through several phases. We have quite a bit of mature stuff from original seedling plantings to specimen plantings that are still here on site. But what we wanted to do was, we're getting to the point where, and probably some of you, if not all of you, know when you plant in your garden, you'll start to have things grow together over the years. And that's what's happened here at the Arboretum in several spots. So we wanted to start to restore the site through an improved maintenance program, which will enhance the natural beauty of the existing Arboretum, but also allow the chosen specimens to expand to their full healthy size. What we also wanted to do was educate visitors and develop classes and programs for all ages and organizations, and just enhance our visitors' experience. And we'll get to some of the history. Those white pines you see there in that picture are from 1928, I believe those were planted. And there are not only white pine, but we got Pinus sylvestris on, we've got some red pine, we've got some Scots, we've got red and a white oak on this property. All these mature trees were 6 to 8 inch, sometimes 12-inch seedlings that were planted in the 20s, which we're very proud of being able to preserve those and still show those off. So Stanley and Dorothy began purchasing property in Indian Hill in the 1920s. This was prior to it becoming incorporated, but after that, it became the Village of Indian Hill. They eventually obtained approximately 200 acres between Walton Creek Road and Muchmore Road. Stanley and Dorothy began planting their estate with numerous woody plant specimens, 2,100 varieties total. The Rowes were fond of coniferous plantings, thus creating the predominantly green Evergreen Horticultural Museum, displaying many examples of hardy plant specimens. In which it stated she wanted to demonstrate their ability to survive in southwestern Ohio. In 1961, the Rowes started the process of donating the collections to the village. Now, the Rowes had always hosted basically a public event before the Arboretum was actually an Arboretum and open to the public. Dorothy Rowe would have lemonade and cookies, and she tried to accommodate as many people from the public of Indian Hill that wanted to come see her garden. And as they aged, they decided, that they wanted to make this a permanently open to the public Arboretum. And in 1961 is when they started this process. The Rowes started to donate the collections to the village. And in 1987, after Mr. Rowe's death, the village acquisition of 13.1 acres of the gardens and the home of the Rowes was completed. Shortly after the sale of the Rowe home and the 4.1 acres of land created the endowment fund in the hopes that it would cover the perpetual maintenance of the remaining 9.75 acres, what is now the Stanley M. and Dorothy Rowe Arboretum. At that time and currently, there are approximately 1,000 different species in the Arboretum. We've fluctuated on that quite a bit with the restoring of some of the grounds and improvements. Now, if you come to the Arboretum, as you come up to the Arboretum itself, because we are on what's called Arboretum Drive, which is a private drive and has private residence on it. But as you come up to the end of it, you're basically going to be forced to either turn left in the Arboretum, or you'll be running straight into what was the original Rowe home, which is an historical site. That home is owned by private resident. It's private property, but our pathways do allow you to get fairly close to the grounds to see the home and take pictures. It's a very interesting home. It's modeled off of a southern home, very beautiful. It has had a couple renovations and I believe extensions, but the main portion of the house that you look at, abiding by those historical rules, is pretty much intact as it was. So over the years, the Arboretum's gotten several recognitions, either for displays or promoting some of our own plants that we found here. Stanley and Dorothy Rowe's vision of having a public ornamental display, educating guests about the plant specimens and the benefits to wildlife has not gone unnoticed. Their Arboretum was awarded numerous Civic Garden Center Beautification Awards, and you can see the dates there. The Arboretum also filed and received naming rights for our Pinus bungiana Rowe Arboretum, which is a lacebark pine. Some of you may have that in your collection. It is fairly readily available, and that is pictured up on the top right here. This is the original one on the property. What you will find now, for the most part, is it is on a standard. It's a standard trunk. It won't be clump form. We received the rights through the Royal Horticultural Society, which is acting as a registry for conifers. That was obtained in 1994.
Now you're coming up on my thing.
The Rowe Arboretum received the prestigious Montine McDaniel Freeman Award from the Garden Club of America in 1996. This was for our Simia Tribolia pawpaw collection, which we have an outstanding collection of this. When you get here, we have several groupings, but the main grouping is in our southern lower path, be the southeastern path. Pretty much the whole hillside is covered in pawpaw. And this was for educating and advocating the use of native plant specimens. In 2010, the American Conifer Society awarded Rowe Arboretum with the designation of an American Conifer Society reference garden. You know, if you don't know, the Arboretum was chosen based on a number of conifers within our collection and the opportunities we provide to educate the public about growing conifers, using conifers in your home landscape, and building the enthusiasm about conifers with the American Conifer Society. We can't stress enough how much we enjoy working with you guys. It's not only a learning experience, but we get several folks that come in and just tour the property. Okay, in 2018, the Arboretum received the American Horticultural Society Reciprocal Admissions Program designation. So what that means is members of Rowe Arboretum can go to other participating botanical gardens, arboretums that are involved in this reciprocal program. And it's either discounted or free entry or some other free parking, things like that. But this is worldwide. This is a huge benefit to members. I've had several of them really enjoy that we became part of that. It's a great thing to have. Also in 2018, the Arboretum received accreditation through ArbNet, which is Morton Arboretum's accreditation as a level 2 Arboretum. This includes criteria from our collections policy to the number of trees and woody plants we have to educational and programming. This here is one of our other named plants. This is the Pinus coriaceus Rowe Arboretum Select, which is a Korean pine. We do have growers of this, and I believe we will probably have more. I've had several people take some scion wood. Byron, I think you just recently got some. But we have several growers that are getting this. This plant came from the Morris Blue. We noticed it, got it to grow. If you compare the two, the difference is the compactness of this particular tree. The Morris Blue, as it ages, has opened up and become a little bit more open. And from what we found, this one stays quite compact, very dense. The color may be a little bit brighter, but it's fairly close. As I stated earlier, the Arboretum was accredited as a level 2 under ArbNet with the Morton Arboretum. This accreditation really shows how much we are focused on our education, conservation, and making sure standards of Arboretum are quite high and that is followed. All right, I'm going to give you a quick few slides here, and this is basically our master plan. And this is a map of our grounds. The dots that you see are new pathways. And one of the things that we wanted to do with this, if you look at them, you can see some of the existing pathways, and they're all linear. They pretty much guide you from north to south. We had a lot of visitors not seeing quite a number of things, to be honest with you. So we decided to change up the walking path and guide those, to those notable spots, just so you're going to be able to tour and see. Some people just don't go get off gravel paths for some reason, but we have installed a number of these and have several compliments on people seeing the new things. This one here is overlaying kind of the general thought of how we're going to plan this Arboretum out in the next 20 years. A lot of this stuff is still here, but as we go renovating, we're going to be changing them up to where some things may be implemented, such as this little meadow area here, which currently doesn't have much. The arborvitae area here. This is all going to be fairly new. So as you tour the Arboretum, if you haven't been here ever, this is all going to be new to you. But if you have been here and you continue to come, you're going to see several updates and renovations. One of the biggest things, which is going to be a capital improvement, is our education. Currently, the Arboretum, this is our existing building down here. And if you come here, this building is honestly quite small. It houses my office. It's where all the equipment and things are stored. The parking lot is honestly quite small. It's smaller than this picture. So our goal is to implement a larger parking spot here in the main area. And then we also want to build an educational reception center to where we can host up to 50 people to, maybe potentially have a conference society meeting there. A regional one, and garden clubs and things like that to promote stuff. The pictures you see, those are just general references of kind of what we intended to look like or be similar to. Phase 3 is additional parking. As I stated, the Arboretum is just under 10 acres. It's quite small in that parking area. So we're looking at an area right now that is close to the entrance. It is on such a grade, a slope that's very steep, and right now it's pretty much nobody accesses it. There are some things planted down there, but this is the potential location for what these pictures resemble here. It'll be a subgraded parking lot, which will come back out and just loop. And what I wanted to offer you on pictures is this is nowhere near the entire collection. We do have what we call a self-guided tour brochure. There are almost 20 of what we call the noteworthy or notables that we believe, if you're on your first trip here, you ought to really look at them. And this is just a handful. Our Japanese American miniatures garden. This is a portion of it down here on the bottom right near the building. A majority of this stuff was planted in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And what's very interesting about this is just off of the miniature area is our dwarf area. Now, if you come here, the dwarf area is now a full-on conifer forest. There are plants there that are 20, 30, 40 foot tall. Like I mentioned earlier, the early plantings, we have several of those. The Dawn redwoods, The Don Redwoods are special. The meadow sequoias in particular, we have a early grouping from the 40s when that particular species was rediscovered. And it was handed out as seedling starts once they came back to the United States, and we were one of the fortunate ones to receive some of those, and we have a very nice grouping. One of the interesting things that we were able to accomplish here in the recent was with our displays. And working with the Conifer Society, we were able to get a grant. And the goal with this was, we have American Conifer Society Conifer Collectors of the Year plants, but they're spaced out through the Arboretum. And the goal was to really put those in one distinct location for folks to really see all those in one particular area. And fortunately, the ACS was able to award us that grant to start that collection, and we have quite a bit. Now, we're not going to have all of them. We're just going to be able to plant what will grow in our zone. And recently, we had a ACS member that's been a long-time member of the Arboretum, had a bad diagnosis, but we wanted to really work with this gentleman on saving his collection of probably 40 years easily. We were able to do so with 90-something% of his collection, which was hand dug and transported back to the Arboretum in place. This is just a small portion of this area down here. And I'm going to really wrap it up here. This is some more pictures of the Arboretum. This young lady here is actually in a big cavity of an original sassafras tree. This tree was right along a old fence line that was here on the property. The property was divided between pasture and cultivated land. And as you look here, when you pull into the Arboretum, you're going to notice that it looks like it's gardens, plantings, well maintained, which it is. But as you get further in here, this is one of the areas where you get into the dwarf, what they call the dwarfs. And now they're full size plants. They've grown to their full mature size and still growing. And it's a beautiful conifer forest now. So if you've never been here, this is a fantastic area. The children that come here really love this area. And there's another photo of some of that area there. But what I'd like to do is, I really want to encourage not only you, but anyone that interested in helping maintain places like this is to donate. It helps us educate folks, and also with our capital improvements. And Stanley and Dorothy have this written down in quite several places on paperwork or whatever. But one of their real missions is to make the earth a greener, healthier, and more beautiful world. That's whole part of their idea, and that's honestly what I wanted to leave you guys with. And I'm happy to open it up to any questions you may have and see if I can get them answered for you.
Do you still have the Dr. West collection of arborvitae?
We do have a good portion of Dr. West's arborvitae collection. We have gone through and renovated a good portion of those because most of those had grown in together. What we did do was a previous director here, Chris Dager, some of you may know him. Him and Dr. West had named some of those. Those named ones are preserved, and some of the other ones that had some usual growth or color to them, they are here.
Jason, while we're waiting for questions to come in, I'll comment on a couple of things that you mentioned in your presentation. You showed a picture of the Korean pine row selection. And folks, I will tell you that the picture really didn't do it justice. It is a magnificent Korean pine. And Jason was kind enough to let me take science this year, which I took a generous amount. Thank you. We will try to have those in future auctions. After this first year and they get established, we'll try to have one in an auction every year since it's from our region. The other thing I'll mention to folks about the Rowe in particular, the Southeast region and the Central region have agreed to have reciprocal regional meetings, joint regional meetings in the near future. The dates have changed because of the cancellations of the pandemic, but I think the first one will be in Cincinnati in 2024. They'll correct me if that date's wrong. But you will have an opportunity as a region then to see the Rowe Arboretum in person, and I urge all of you to do it. The map that you saw, the overview and the planning, what they're accomplishing there, it is a very foot-friendly place to go. It's easy to walk. You know, some arboretums you go for miles and miles, and this one I think is pretty well contained. So bear that in mind for when we have our joint regional meetings. The other
one thing I want to add on that is if you are planning to come here, please give me a call ahead if you're coming here with a group. We do not allow any type of bus traffic up the drive that just honestly will not fit up here. So large groups, small vans or whatnot can obviously make it. But if you're having a group or you want to bring a group up here, please call me and we'll set something up for your tour.
Yes,
that's great. I think
Chris Degger and I will chair that, setting up that meeting. And what Jason said, it will not be on the regional meeting tour. It'll be either pre-meeting or post-meeting because we can't get tour buses up there. Jeff, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I think April had a question.
Yeah, my question is this: when the Korean pine is available, would it survive in the 7B zone? I'm in Tennessee.
I believe
West
so.
Tennessee.
I believe so. I think that the Koreances or Korean pine is quite honestly up and coming to where you're going to see more of these cultivars that have been hard to get or only in arboretums more available onto the market because of there are other issues with like Colorado spruce that are getting needle cast, things to where they're not so healthy anymore. And these pest-free plants such as the Coriensis, I believe it'll do quite well down there. Then you probably see it on the market.
Thank you so much.
Let me weigh in on that, April. In your region, the Southeast region, at the Jack Baker Arboretum on the Kentucky-Tennessee border, when your region had a regional meeting there just a few years ago, they have a beautiful Korean pine there. And they had it in a bed with a Pinus strobus White Mountain and the Ayacuhuite Forest Sky. And it was a tie between the Forest Sky and the Korean pine as to which one was the best. But it was flourishing there, and that's pretty darn close to your zone.
Yeah, we grow several different Korean pines here just outside of Nashville, so they seem to do pretty well, at least this far south.
One of my favorites here. Yeah, we're starting to get quite a bit of collection of those here in cultivars, and I believe Bob's here. Bob Imes is part of this. He got me hooked on one in his garden. So it's fun to see a passion like this start to grow.
Bob Imes, unmute and respond if you want.
I live in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and last August we had a derecho. And I don't know if you don't know what a derecho is. It's a land hurricane. We had winds of up to 140 miles an hour. And for an hour, our city was just pummeled. And now, of course, it looks like we are a war zone. And we've lost probably 75% of our tree cover, our public tree cover, as well as what people have lost in their yards. We lost 23 trees, and the majority of them were arborvitaes. I'm curious, seeing your plans and your overlays makes me very excited, because even though my husband and I are definitely senior citizens, we have decided to replant. And the problem that we're facing is I want to plant everything. And I was really interested in what you were saying about how the trees will grow into each other. So how do you recommend that I use good judgment in choosing and positioning the trees that we're going to put in there? Because right now I just I just want to cover everything with trees, because it's just so devastating and heartbreaking to look out on what once was a beautifully landscaped area that now is just barren. And we had where the arborvitaes were, of course, they had spread, and underneath was nothing. I mean, it was just dirt. So when they were gone, it's like looking out. In fact, I was so glad to see the snow because it covers the devastation. So anyway, do you, as a person who plans for the future, do you have some suggestions for the homeowner?
Sure. Well, there's honestly, from what I found, there's two types of collectors. Some folks that like what they call, they'll plant things and let them grow in together, and things bloom and just merge as they like. That's totally fine too. That's up to the grower. As an arboretum, we really want to display our plants to where they can reach their full max potential width at growth rate, just so guests can really see what they are and how they grow. I would say if you're really going to start to replant, is look at the plant tag or whoever's selling it and find out what the growth rate is, and then be able to know, hey, you can fit a little miniature under this arborvitae that won't grow so much in 10 years or so and really fit that location. Growth rate is tremendous to us here. And on being able to provide a maximum amount of plants in a small area.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sandy Hafner, I think your hand is raised.
Oops. Yes. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Great. So Tom's here. Tom has a question.
Jason, could you please elaborate a little bit more on the bolt collection and what it's bringing to the Arboretum?
Well, we had, as far as I don't have the whole list of conifers and deciduous here on me right now. But like I said, it's probably 40 years worth of plants, and we've got anything that was just recently planted to stuff that had been planted 40 years ago. Number wise, we're probably close to about 180 plants. And the area that it is, we had to really remove some overgrown things, and it worked out quite well, because those plants we were able to distribute in that general area with a new walking path, a bench that Bernie donated. This gentleman's name is Bernie, by the way. It fit in wonderfully to the Arboretum. I mean, we really needed something like this, and we had planned on something like this as a renovation, but being able to help Bernie preserve his lifelong plantings, to quite honest with you, is the best thing that we could hope for. The visitor experience has been wonderful. I mean, everybody that's been here, that's one of the first places they go to see. And we're talking a wide range. Like I wish I had the plant list to give you it now. I can give you that, but roughly we're right around 180 plus plants.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, I'll add to that. As you know, I'm I've been good friends with Bernie Bolte for a long time. And what most people don't know is that Bernie's interest in conifers predated the American Conifer Society. Once upon a time in Cincinnati, Stanley Rowe, by the way, was a big part of this. There was the Dwarf Conifer Society of Cincinnati, of which Bernie was a member along with Stanley Rowe and a few others. So that will tell you the origin of his plants goes back, as Jason said, 40 plus years.
Yeah, the plants that we got are from, six stuff that the day of that we were getting some of these, he had just received some. So he's still collecting. So it's from 6-inch stuff all the way up to, I believe we've got some that are probably about 25 foot tall from him. They're just quite big. They had to be trucked in. And everything was hand planted. Nothing was planted with a machine.
Wow.
Are there any further questions on Rowe? If you have questions, we'll come back and get them. We have some announcements.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
How many species and associated cultivars of conifers do you have?
We are right now. Our plant inventory is all over the place. We're probably around 3,000 right now on species and
3,000 on species for
yes,
conifers?
we are packed into this little area. That's where we are thinning things out. We have been as high as 5,000 plants in this one little area. So, like I said, you come here, you're going to see areas that are just what we call overgrown and packed in. So we are a very diverse area here.
But that's 3,000 species of conifers?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
how many cultivars then?
We're probably up to around 1,000 plus different types of cultivars of just deciduous stuff here. I wish I could give you the exact number, but we haven't done the plant inventory and revised that in probably 3 years because of so much renovation.
But the cultivar should be higher than the species, higher number than the species. I'm sorry, cultivar
Yes.
should be a higher number than the species. So
Yes.
You said you had 1,000 cultivars and 3,000 species.
Yes, I said 1,000 cultivars of just probably deciduous plants.
Yeah, but okay, so how many cultivars of conifers? You have way more than that?
Over at that, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna get into debate about what we have.
I'm just asking. Just asking. That 3,000 seems unbelievably high for species.
Well, I'd love to have you here. Yeah.
And I can't weigh in on the number, but I will say this, that the signage at the Rowe Arboretum is well done and clear to read. So you can see the accessions and everything on there. Not to speak to the numbers, but say as a visitor, it's nice to be able to identify a plant without having to go find somebody.
Yeah, I wish I could give you the exact number on those things, but I cannot off the hand. And it has fluctuated quite a bit, and I do apologize for that. But that is one of the things as we do renovations. In the next few years, we will have a hard plant list to where you can see exactly what we have.
And will that be on the
comment?
Will that be on the internet?
We are working for that to be on the internet. Now, I will tell you this. This is probably the slowest molasses. Everything is very slow to be implemented here. So don't expect that to be available online anytime soon. We can offer you a paper copy through email as well.
Okay.
I'd like to make a comment. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, Mike, go ahead.
To Sylvia's point, I we've been collecting, my wife and I have been collecting for off and on, more on lately in the last 10 years. We started 30 years ago. Our inspiration was a conifer garden that really hardly exists anymore at the Missouri Botanic Gardens. But I would invite you to go visit, and maybe you already have Bickelhaupt, the Dubuque Arboretum, and I think Des Moines has one. This is a great idea, a great way for you to see how trees grow, how big they might get, how fast they might grow, and also the shapes, the textures that you're wanting to add. And then what's your time horizon? You may want to consider planting a relatively fast growing tree and you really don't care what it looks like in 10 years. And you want to cover your area. And then anybody who's been in my garden, it is packed. And I am not afraid to prune. That's what clippers are for. And also, just as a matter of course, things are going to die. I usually, last year was especially hard because we got down to 0 on the 3rd of November. And I thought everything came through okay in the spring. And then as the summer progressed, it'd be a couple, 3 things die. Some things that have been in the garden for a long time. So mortality is a fact of life, and it's a fact in trees too. So it's just like life. So, you kind of follow your heart there. And then from that, you can, if the signage is good, like Byron is saying, you can write the names down. You can get an idea of, okay, that's too big. I don't like the way it's shaped, etc. And then hopefully can reach out to the various nurseries, places that might have that, have what you're looking for.
Jason, we've got a couple of questions in the chat.
Yep, go ahead.
One is, are you open all winter?
We are. We do have summer hours and winter hours. Winter hours are from November to February from 8 to 5:30. And then once summer hours kick in, we're open from 7 a.m. to 7:30 p.m.
And part of the same question from Steve has to do with COVID restrictions outside at the Arboretum.
Yeah, so for those that are in state Ohio, we follow what the governor's mandates are, which is, I believe at this time, it's no more than 10 persons in a group. That obviously, if you are in a group, you should be masked up. But if you're coming in as a family, we're fine with you being unmasked. Majority of people are because obviously they're outside.
And the final question from Steve had to do with, when will you be having sales at the Arboretum?
Well, we are in the planning stages for this year's sale. As it looks now, it is going to be a go. What we'll end up having to do is limit the number of folks that are allowed here at one time. But typically our big sale is in the spring. It's I believe, see, what would this year, I would have to look at the calendar, but usually it's at the very end of April, the last weekend of April. I don't know what days those are yet, and we haven't put that in stone, but we typically have that spring sale. We also do what we call a native tree and shrub sale throughout the summer. And then sometimes, depending on what we have left over or vendor participation, we'll have a fall sale as well. You can follow, if you don't know, you can follow, go to Rowe Arboretum, just Google it, it'll bring you to our page and you can sign up for a newsletter there.
Okay. Are there any other questions? You don't see any hands up. Hearing none, I want to thank everybody for taking time out for this first foray of the Central Region into a Zoom video conference like this. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and I hope you'll come back next week. Next week, we have the Longenecker Horticultural Garden from Madison, Wisconsin. And many of you will remember a recent regional meeting was held in Madison, and that was some garden. So we're going to have a great talk from the curator of that garden. In the meantime, everybody stay safe. If you have Jeff's email, if you have questions about the bylaws, you have my email, email me. I'll be happy to send you the link to sign the petition. We also have a complete revision already done for you to look at if you would like to. So again, thank everyone. I want to thank the host, lest I forget, Jeff and Sandy, Sherry Speth, and Sandy Hefner. Thank you very much for your time. The things that go on behind the scenes are important, and it helps a meeting like this come off without too many glitches. So thank all of them. And Jason, there you are. Thank you again for the wonderful presentation. And the cyan wood.
You're welcome.
Everybody take care, and I hope we see you next week.